It's funny, this theme of LSAT myths, law school myths, GPA myths, because there are a lot of myths out there about LSAT prep, and I myself fell prey to a lot of them back when I was studying. It actually took me an entire year to go from a 152 to ultimately achieving a 175 on test day. So it was a long slog. It was a big journey, lots of heartache along the way, but I made it in the end, and now I'm looking to help others do the same. So I thought, since you asked, I would share 5 of the biggest myths I see around LSAT prep that I myself fell for as well. So hopefully, again, I can help others avoid making the same mistakes. Biggest mistake I see is folks not spending enough time on their LSAT prep. A lot of LSAT prep courses typically are around 2 to 3 months long, but really it takes much longer to reach your fullest potential. And there's nothing wrong with that. If it takes 4, 5, 6 months, it's worth it. You spend 3 to 5 years earning your undergraduate GPA, and your LSAT score is a single day, but your LSAT score weighs more heavily than your GPA does. So it's worth investing at least 5 to 6 months and putting in the time. You also don't want to take the LSAT just to see how you'll do. Law schools do not average multiple scores. It's true, but why spend $200? Why have a low score on your record? Why go through all that stress? If you want to take a proctored diagnostic, just go to one of the big prep companies, and that alone will be enough, or have a friend proctor it for you. It's good enough to get that walkthrough, and there's no reason to have that score or a cancellation on your record, especially with the new restriction that you can only take the LSAT 3 times in a single cycle or 5 times in a 5-year period. So you don't want to have those takes if you can avoid them. Next big mistake I see is folks going into a random bookstore and just pulling any old book off the shelf. Barron's, LSAT for Dummies. Listen, folks, there's no reason to do that anymore. We live in the 21st century. You've got Amazon reviews. You've got forums where you can get advice on what the best books are, and definitely avoid all those books that are using fake LSAT questions. They don't want to pay the licensing fees. They're trying to save some money, but ultimately it's not in your interest, because a lot of times those fake questions are not realistic, and worse, they contain mistakes. So definitely avoid those. Stick with the actual LSAT prep tests or top reviewed books that are using real LSAT problems. I've got 2 more myths here that I want to cover, and then I want to get your feedback, Anthony, and have a little back and forth with you. The second to last one is people take exams, but they don't review. It's really tempting to get that dopamine kick, taking exam after exam after exam, measuring your results, being happy or sad about them, and moving on. But the real gains come from the review process, seeing where your mistake was it in the stimulus, was it in the method of reasoning, the question stem, or in the answer choices. That analysis is really important, that pattern recognition, so you can avoid making the same mistakes again, because the LSAT does repeat itself time and time and time again. That's why there's all these old exams available to you. You can study those and avoid making those same mistakes going forward. And finally, it's not enough to just take exam after exam and review. You've also got to have a plan of attack in terms of how you go about taking those exams. And it's really a 5-step process. Exams are only one part of it. I recommend what I call a laser approach to studying. Laser is learning, accuracy, sections, exams, and review. Learning is getting the theory, studying the textbooks, watching the course lesson videos. Accuracy is doing questions untimed by type, learning the basics. Sections is individual timed 35-minute sections to work on your pacing. Exams is working on your endurance, 5 sections, just like test day. And finally, part 5 is review. And my study plans on my site, the LSAT blog, I walk through that 5-step process for whatever your study timeline might be, just to help you go through it systematically, methodically, with a real effective plan of attack.